There is, inarguably, a lot of negativity on the internet. But why wouldn't there be? In addition to being fun, pointing out the flaws in other people and their work is a great way to boost your self-esteem. It's quick, it's easy. Taking out your personal frustrations on other people is endlessly therapeutic, and it often rewards you with tons of attention without having to put in the work to do anything worthwhile. You don't even have to worry about being needlessly cruel because the internet makes it so easy to forget that there are real people on the receiving end of your criticism, so you can enjoy your smug superiority absolutely guilt-free. Plus, when you post anonymously, you don't take responsibility for what you say, so you can be as hateful and obnoxious as you want. Wait, I use my real name online. And I'm on camera. And it's no secret that I live in San Diego. Yes, well, anyway, I could join in the chorus of negativity, but diversity is a many-splendored thing, what with variety being the spice of life, and also, I thought I'd try some positivity on for size and share my favorite thing about Anita Sarkeesian's Tropes vs. Women videos. What is Tropes vs. Women? It is proof that we, the gamers, have won. Video games are mainstream. Video games are art. And as such, video games invite the analytical eye of culture critics like Sarkeesian, who in her Kickstarter-funded series examines the general portrayal of female characters in video games. Sarkeesian's videos have garnered, in scientific terms, a metric shit-ton of negative commentary. Some of it articulate and constructive, most of it not. So let's trailblaze a new path and say something nice. My favorite thing about the Tropes vs. Women videos is that they often provide me with a new perspective from which to view aspects of the video games I already know and love. It doesn't have to be anything life-changing. Hell, doesn't even have to be something I agree with. So long as it's something fun or otherwise interesting to think about, I am a happy clam. For example, Mario. I've been playing Mario games for 30 years, so I'm well aware that the basic setup of most of the core titles is Bowser kidnaps Princess Peach, Mario defeats Bowser and wins her back. So when Sarkeesian used the series as an example of the damsel in distress trope, she wasn't telling me anything new.
I've heard it said that in the game of patriarchy, women are not the opposing team, they are the ball. So for example, we can think of the Super Mario franchise as a grand game being played between Mario and Bowser, and Princess Peach's role is essentially that of the ball. Mario! The two men are tossing her back and forth over the course of the main series, each trying to keep and take possession of the damsel ball.
Okay, that's new. I had never thought about it like that. Peach is the ball. Huh. That is a really interesting way of framing that relationship, especially one I have long since taken for granted. Plus, we now have the phrase damsel ball, and that is awesome. Anyway, after spending 3 videos discussing the damsel in distress trope, Sarkeesian moved on to what she calls the Miss Male character, a female version of an already established male character. You know, Miss Pac-Man, Toadette, Command Girl video. There's a lot of great stuff to chew on in that episode, but what jumped out at me the most was a character trait she calls personality female syndrome that can often affect Smurfettes, the token woman in an otherwise all-male group. She describes personality female syndrome as female characters who are reduced to a one-dimensional personality type consisting of nothing more than a collection of shallow stereotypes about women. Sarkeesian gives a few examples of this, such as Super Mario's Wendy O. Koopa and Wonderful 101's Wonder Pink, but it was the following that really got me thinking.
Maxwell is the hero of the popular Scribblenauts series. In the 4th game, Scribblenauts Unlimited, we're introduced to his twin sister Lily, who's basically a feminized copy of Maxwell. The two are identical except for a series of gendered signifiers designed to mark her as female. In the game, we learn that Lily is one of 42 children. All 41 of the other siblings are male, and all have some trait or interest associated with their name that serves to define their personality. There's Artie the artist, Buzz the astronaut, Glum the emo rocker, and so on and so forth, and all are unlockable and playable during the course of the game. By contrast, Lily's personality trait is essentially being Maxwell's twin. She has no associated interest or hobby other than being the female version of the game's hero.
When I first heard that, I thought, hey, maybe that's why I didn't give a flying falafel about saving Lily when I played Scribblenauts Unlimited. Which led me to some interesting thoughts about how creators might in some ways be creatively limiting themselves with characters whose personality is primarily, if not exclusively, defined by their gender. Which, in turn, got me thinking about my favorite TV show of all time, Mission Impossible, and examining how Barbara Baines Cinnamon and other female IMF agents were typically utilized on that show. Jim was a mission planner, Roland was the master of disguise, Willie was a strongman, Barney was a technology genius, and Cinnamon was the girl. I'd never thought about it before, but generally speaking, when there was a woman on the team, her role was to use her feminine wiles to seduce or distract various targets. Sometimes they'd do makeup. And while the men could almost always overpower anyone in a fight, the women often could not. Now that doesn't make me like the series any less, but it does get me thinking about my favorite show in a new way, and that I dig. The next major trope that Sarkeesian covered was women as background decoration. In the second video on the topic, she makes the following observation.
In Ubisoft's Watch Dogs, scripted crime events randomly generate throughout the game's open-world environment. The only options available are to wait until the assault is in progress, then either take out the perpetrator during the assault, or take him down after the assault has happened.
Hey, we need to talk. I'll fucking kill you!
No game mechanics are provided to call an EMT, administer first aid, or check in on the victim.
You know, over the years, I have played a ton of games where you chase down the perpetrators of muggings, carjackings, shootings, assaults, hit and runs, and the like, but the victim's well-being? That's something that never once crossed my mind. But when Sarkeesian pointed it out, I started thinking about how a victim assist mechanic could work. What would the cost-benefit be? How could you make it a fun, interesting, and organic part of gameplay? Making a minigame out of administering first aid is obvious, but could you gamify calling 911? Well, the protagonist of Watch Dogs has that super hacker phone that can manipulate traffic lights and other environmental details, so what if you could help the paramedics reach the victim in time? But what about the cops? A vigilante probably wants to balance caring for the victim with not getting arrested, so maybe you could guide the ambulance to the scene while simultaneously stalling or redirecting the police. I spent an entertaining hour or so mentally batting this stuff around, and while prompting a thought exercise in game design was not the intention of Sarkeesian's observation, it still pushed my brain in a fun direction. Her words often get me thinking about the media I love in brand new ways, and that is my favorite thing about Anita Sarkeesian's Tropes vs. Women videos. Damsel ball. I love that.